my business community right here
And
under my watch.
that's another thing. The all of these out of town companies, even the companies that are not, in Hines County and in Madison and Rankin County, who's doing a lot of business in the city and the county. The leaders are not even challenging them to do anything in the community. Just yesterday, we wrapped up our giving back to JPS and Hines County School District little uh, task of projects that we had. We did about five different tasks, among the both school districts. But yesterday we wrapped it up with presenting a check to the Provine high school football team. But I have not one time seen Hennepin, Jackson Water. I haven't seen Jacobs, any of those companies adopt any of these schools. I haven't seen them give back in the community or anything. And so, like I said, how do you all expect to move the needle in Jackson, Mississippi, and Hines County if we are not taking advantage of every opportunity? If you're going to be a leader, you got to help make sure that the local businesses are afforded opportunities. You got to make sure local businesses and out of town companies give back to these communities and help with these different issues that we have in these communities that we're dealing with. That's how you build your community. You don't build it just sitting back waiting on, Mr. Governor Reeves to just give us something. We got some things that we can work on ourselves.
We have to control our own destiny. Quite frankly, white folk expect you to control your own destiny. I had a meeting with the former governor in the state of Mississippi who sent me over. I was complaining about not having enough opportunities, and I wanted to do some business in the Department of Corrections. Well, at that time, he recommended that I go over and see the commissioner, who was African American. Well, I went over. Of course, naturally, I didn't get an opportunity to do business there. And so I came back to the governor and I said, well, there's no opportunities over there. They don't have a EBO department. They don't have an affirmative action plan. They don't have minority contracting. There's a goal. And there's nothing going on over there. And he said, well, if your own people won't do business with you, what do you expect me to do? If your own people won't do business with you, what do you expect white folk to do? Now, it's a shame that we're going to have to make some drastic changes in how we do business and how we elect folks in this city and in the state and in this county. We're already at a situation where Black folk are beat down to the point that they don't try anymore. They don't have a quality of life. They don't have the income necessary to go on vacation, to send their kids to private school. They don't have that. They're making decisions between medicine and the grocery bill every day. That's because no money is circulating in our community. And you want to know why Black boys are committing crime? Because they cannot buy Nike gym shoes. They cannot take their girl to the movie. They cannot get car note. They don't have money for the insurance. And so when you don't have that, then you become a third world party.
And you just hit it on the head. You said money is not circulating in the Black community and African American community. Let's make it clear. Money is circulating in the city of Jackson and Hines County. You got 600 million with the water issue that's circulating in the city of Jackson. You have it was 100 and some million of ESSER funds. I think it may have been more than that because I think it was two rounds of ESSER funds with Jackson Public Schools. You got 197 million with 1% sales tax commission. You got a lot of money circulating in the city of Jackson and Hines County, but like Mr. Garrett said, it's not circulating in the Black community. Not less than 1% is circulating.
And that's why we have all these issues that we have. And somebody has got to shout out. Somebody has got to scream about it. And somebody has got to say that we got to do better. And for all elected officials out there, you ask for these positions. And one of the positions that you have requires that you make this place a better place than when you found it. If you go into a job and you cannot improve upon the conditions of your folk, and we're always talking about our folk, if you can't improve the quality of life for our folk, then you ought not be in the position. You ought to find a job that you can be successful at. Because the number one goal in the white community is economic empowerment for their constituents. Look at what Trump is doing in the White House. You can say whatever you will or may, but he is giving his folk every opportunity in the world, and the billionaire club is sharing all of these dollars. And when we get down here to the 100-air club, which we are in the Black community, we don't circulate the dollar not even one time. And so you're in these jobs and in these positions for a reason.
Also to educate the listening audience, Mr. Garrett, what I call the major arteries of a city, garbage, water, the airport, school district. We should never be talking about outsourcing those things. Those are things that should definitely be ran by a municipality. And this is where the Caucasian community in this city and county got us. They have convinced this city that we need to outsource those things, and we have bought into that. And so all of the most of the major arteries of this city have been outsourced and ran by people who are not Jacksonians. That's a bad business decision right there in itself. I mean, back in the day, towns picked up their own garbage. Why we can't? We got a landfill. Why we can't pick up our own garbage? I think it would be much more feasible to buy garbage trucks and run our own, handle our own garbage and hire employees. I mean, why should we outsource that? I mean, we big enough to handle our own garbage business. I mean, I believe in order to get the revenues back going in the city, we're going to have to look at handling our own, responsibilities such as the garbage and things like that.
Right. Marcus, we up on a hard break on a commercial. We're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to deal with the second half of this program this evening. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Socrates Garrett ENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. Socrates Garrett ENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.Dot grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. By using Socrates Garrett ENT.com's crushed concrete products, anyone from homeowners to general contractors can help reduce landfilled concrete waste, conserve natural resources, and gain significant economic savings on materials and disposal costs. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippilink.com and click on Home Delivery.
And we're back. We appreciate our sponsors and those that support this platform. We need a sponsor for this particular show. If you believe in the work that we're doing, if you believe that this work needs to be carried out, if you believe that someone has got to stand up and shout out loud about the things that we see that are going on wrong, then sponsor this program. If you believe that everything is going the way that you want it to go, then you ought not do anything. You ought to be very, very happy with that. And so to the extent that I hear advertisers and sponsors over on WYAB, one of the most racist shows that I've ever listened to in the mornings, talking about the culture rot with Clay Edwards over there and Kim Wade over there trashing Jackson. And they get a ton of sponsors and advertisers. But when you get to programs like this over there, we're scared to put our name on it. We got to protect our brand. We can't be associated with that. Y'all are too aggressive. Y'all are too strong. Well, you can't hide. You cannot hide. You cannot hide and continue to sell for crumbs and scraps when you got to try to move into the mainstream, into the real America, where you enjoy the life, liberty, and happiness, not even the pursuit, real happiness. That's where you gotta get to, not for yourself, but for your children. If you don't take this fight now, then children will be no better off than you are today. And one of the things that I say about the civil rights movement years ago, we should have settled it back then, but we didn't. We came out of affirmative action and we got complacent and we went into integration and we lost our own economy. Look at Ferry Street. It was a booming Black business district at one point in time. What happened to it? Marcus, I got to ask you, what happened to our businesses?
You know, like you said, the dollar is not circulating in the city. And there are going to be more businesses that's going to close because the dollar is definitely not circulating. You know, we're here screaming and hollering and, pleading out for a change. And I consider this pretty much up top, your engineers, your architects, your contractors, healthcare folks. But it's trickling down to the mom and pops. You see a lot of convenience stores and gas stations and cleaners and places. You see a lot of businesses starting to close up. So that lets me know that it's sucking it up dry around here because we're not circulating the dollar.
And so we're not here hating on white businesses. You ought to get business wherever you can get it from. You ought to do that. I understand that. I mean, you storm chasers. You go wherever there's opportunity lands. And so I can't be mad at Hemp Hill Construction Company that's always working in Jackson. I can't be mad at Richard Ruler down there for running a good business. I can't be mad at Wicker. I can't be mad at Martin. I can't be mad at Xylem. All of these white businesses are in here. I have to be angry at the people that let them in here. I have to be able to be angry with the leadership that doesn't lock down its community and protect its constituents as best we can. And how do you do that? Let's deal with it for a moment, Marcus. The state of Mississippi procurement laws, every elected official needs to understand what the state procurement laws are so that you can take advantage of the opportunities when they come. First of all, I got to call two vendors. I'm not going to call one white and one black. I'm not going to call two whites. Marcus, I'm going to call two black vendors when I know that they get less than 1% of expenditures for contracts for goods and services. I got to take that opportunity to call those vendors and say, hey, I'm buying a lot of toilet paper. I need to start buying my toilet paper in $75,000 purchase orders. Or I need to buy ballpoint pens in $50,000 purchase orders. I need to buy water, bottled water in $50,000 purchase orders so I can pick up the phone and call 2 black vendors and try to get them in the game. You gotta take advantage of that. Now, when you leave that, that's totally legal and acceptable and defendable and expected. When you leave that, we go to a category called professional services. Marcus, what is a professional service contract?
Well, I consider a professional service contract is basically more like a management, a professional coming in to manage a particular project under a service agreement as opposed to a bidded contract.
So all of your engineers and all of your architects and all of your legal services, all of those contracts are the operation of the wastewater treatment plant, the operation of your drinking water plant, the operation of the J-Tran bus station. All of those are professional service contracts. In order to do that, you send out a request for a proposal. It's called an RFP. You weight the proposal depending upon the things that are important to you or which price is a part, but not the defining factor. And so you then have an opportunity to hire all of the black engineers. There ought not be a white engineering firm working in Jackson, Mississippi, when we have Crown Engineer and we got IMS Engineer and we got Kelly over there, engineer and architect firm. These firms ought to be loaded with opportunity. We got SOL over there with Will O'Neill over there. These firms ought to be ringing every day. You got Silvertech over there with Elmore Moody. These guys should never look for work because you got an opportunity to professional service contract to award it to who you want to. Most of the time we call it just a beauty contest. That's basically what it is. And state law created that so that people could give work to their constituents without having to bid for it.
I have one ask of the engineering firms, though. We do have some engineering firms who are really struggling to get business for whatever reason, but we do have some who are being blessed. Like Mr. Garrett said, the caveat of the engineers that it's a request for proposal. They don't have to be. They just turn in their best presentation, and the one that has the best presentation is the one that's awarded the job. But now the ask that I have is when you're blessed to be the engineer selected for a project, you all should be encouraging these entities because the city and the county they really ride on a lot of engineers' advice. So you all should be encouraging them to use local folks that you know are capable of doing the work and who have produced in the past. Don't just get in the room and just because you're in the room, you forget about everybody else. I could call a few, but I'm not. But I remember a time when we were all in the room eating at the same tuna fish can. So, that's something that you should never forget. And I just, that's one ask that I have. When you all get in these rooms, and these folks are asking you who are some people that you recommend, or they're looking to you for suggestions. Hey, do your due diligence and help get others in the room. That's the difference between Jackson, Mississippi and Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia comes together and you have several blacks helping each other. Jackson, Mississippi, everybody in their corners and they grabbing what they can grab and they going on to the house. We got to change that. We got to change that.
We got to change that, and one of the reasons for that is they are afraid to speak out because they don't want to lose the crown. But you're never going to get to the next level You know, we didn't come into business to have a job. We came in here to create a legacy, to build a generational wealth and generational opportunities where we move the race forward. We didn't come in here just to be selfish and to try to get everything that we could individually. There is a responsibility that goes along with that. And as Marcus is saying, you can't get in those rooms and not recommend your contracting community and others. You gotta recommend that we don't bundle all of these contracts and make them so large that Black folk cannot bid upon them. We gotta, unbundle the opportunities. We gotta make it smaller. And then when I hear this word about the lack of capacity, well, Boeing one time had the lack of capacity. TVA had the lack of capacity. All of these firms started from a lack of capacity. And yet the opportunities, they get trial and error. And when you fail at one project, we know that you gain the experience on what not to do the next time. It was a learning curve. Failure is expected. Failure is expected in business at some point in time, but you learn from it, you get up and get back in the game and you try it again. You never quit. And our elected officials ought to look at it the same way. If our Black businesses don't have capacity in our community, it's not a problem of Black businesses.
Well, what about the ones that have capacity? Hell, we got so much capacity, it's stored up in. I think you got a few cases of capacity in the garage back there in the warehouse. What about the ones that have the capacity and we catching it every day trying to get opportunities? I mean, we should be done approving ourselves.
We should, but we got a certain degree of haters out here.
Man.
These haters are real and they don't quit. And so, and when you challenge their authority or when you speak on a subject matter that challenges their achievements, then you get in a situation where you're hated even more. And so our elected officials cannot be small-minded people like that. Black folks fall out during the elections. You and I both ran for mayor of the city of Jackson. Mayor Horn cannot fall out with us in the business community because we ran for mayor and were unsuccessful. He's got to reach out. Quite frankly, this is your brain trust. The guys that put themselves on the line during the campaign season demonstrated that they have a commitment and an understanding of how to move this city forward. You got to avail yourself of that knowledge. These 60-some years combined work experience that you and I represent, there's not much in Jackson that we have not seen.
Or done.
We've seen just about everything you can be. We've been through, at least we were here during the mayor before Dale Danks. I forget, Russell Davis. We were here from Russell Davis all the way up to John Horn. That's a lot of mayors, so that's a lot of administration. And so we got to understand that your business community is in fact your brain trust. This is who you come to. This is what white folks go to when they want to deal with an issue in their community. They go to the business community. And one of the things we got to get better at is building a network in our business community. So today I'm announcing that the Mississippi Black Chamber of Commerce is open for business and taking memberships into the organization so that we can have programs that we can teach our children about business, we can lecture to them, we can have lunches, and we can talk about things. The organizations that we have currently, they do a job, but it's not a job that's being recognized in our business community. I know that Sister Espy over there at the Urban League is a wonderful person doing a great job. I understand that. I know Jenny Jones over there at the Minority Contractors Association is a great person doing a great job. But I don't hear those voices at this mic saying, Houston, we got a problem. Nobody is saying we got a problem. I think Jackson ought to be under a state of emergency. Frank Milton kept this city under a state of emergency for 90 days for no reason at all that I could see. He just declared it.
Right.
Well, one thing that happens when you declare a state of emergency, you suspend the purchasing laws. That's how Ted Hennepin got into Jackson, Mississippi. He came in here as the czar over the water authority, appointed by EPA, but when they put him in this position, he had no boss. He had to only talk to Judge Wingate, but he didn't report to the governor. He didn't have state procurement laws to deal with. He didn't have city ordinance to deal with. He did whatever the hell he chose to do. And because we were under a state of emergency. And so we're under a state of emergency now with potholes, drainage ditches, tree cutting service, meter reading services, wastewater, drinking water. We are under a state of emergency, but no one is using the authority that goes along with that.
Yeah.
Ask the governor to declare an emergency in the city of Jackson so you can empower your people.
You know, and when you talk about things that make logical sense, I'm still scratching my head and trying to fathom bringing a company from Norfolk, Virginia to trim trees. And you got two local African-American companies with equipment to solve this pothole crisis we have. But neither one of the companies are doing work. You know, the math just does not math. The math does not math. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, do you all know how much the mobilization cost is for those trucks to come to Mississippi from Norfolk, Virginia? Do you know how many potholes can be filled just off the mobilization cost that they're paying these folks for traveling? Because Norfolk is what, 10 hours or more?
At least.
You know, and that's in a car. Heavy equipment, probably double or almost double that, because you can't drive but about 50 or 60 miles per hour, you know, with the governors on the trucks or whatever. So, you know, I'm still trying to, you know, rationalize that in my head as to how does that make good business sense when you got people right here locally that could be helping to resolve these issues.
It don't make good business sense at all, Marcus. And the deal is, and let's just be open. When you went to Wicker to try to get an opportunity to be as a subcontractor, you should have been a prime. But then you find yourself at the next level. So now you want to be a subcontractor. When you went to Wicker to try to get a subcontract to fill potholes, you were met with resistance.
Absolutely.
Tell our viewing audience what happened in that situation.
Well, you know, when they came to town, they were actually looking for local contractors to help them get this work done. And when we met and I showed them my company portfolio and showed them the pictures of all the equipment we had, they were like, oh yeah, most definitely, you know, we're about to put you to work. And from the time that we had that meeting to the time we went and, you know, added them to the general liability insurance, the phone stopped ringing, went cold turkey, you know. And I know that there's a breakdown somewhere because, again, they know we had the capacity after we produced everything to them. And, you know, they were looking for contractors to help. And since they've been here, I don't know any contractors really around here that they've been using. Everybody I've seen have been companies that they've brought in from somewhere else. And so, you know, there is a breakdown somewhere. Somebody is pulling the strings to make sure that the money is going in a certain direction. And of course, like I said, we haven't been able to get to the bottom of that part yet, but we know that, things just don't pass the smell test.
And we know it don't pass the smell test. And I too had an opportunity, met with them and visited the site, showed me the requirements. The next day, I thought we would get a call to mobilize on the job to fill some potholes. Next day, nobody answered the call. So I know that somewhere in the chain of command, not Wicker, because Wicker in the beginning was very open to utilizing our firms, but somewhere in the chain of command, either from the Ed Hennepin's office or the Jackson Water employees or the mayor's office, somewhere in there, somebody put a word out that do not use these firms. And what I heard was that they were not going to use the firms that were associated with the Siemens contract. Now let's think about that for a minute. There were 4 or 5 black firms that worked for Siemens and all did a good job. But now you're going to put the word out that any firm that was associated with the Siemens contract won't have an opportunity to do any work in this town. It's absolutely asinine. But the firm that the largest subcontractor under the Siemens contract was Oracle. And Oracle today continues to run the water billing system for the city of Jackson. So the white folk didn't get frozen out. It's just the small black companies that were trying to get up and trying to move to the next level. Move to the next level. We had already been successful, but now we had an opportunity to get a $20 million contract to do work. And that work was done efficiently and it was done without any problems at all.
Absolutely.
And now to have somebody say, well, we're not going to work with any minorities because they worked on the Siemens contract, it is really, it's interfering with business. It is illegal. It's immoral. It don't make no sense in an 85% black town to single out 5 of your top businesses and say we're going to close the door on them. You got to be kidding me.
And as you stated, the all the work was inspected, approved, and signed off on. Every last minority contractor that played a part on that project the project was signed off and completed. Did every bit of it, and then inspection was approved. But somebody started saying we did shady work and we didn't complete this and complete that, and the mass rolled with the rumor. But the paperwork will tell you different. Everybody completed their task.
Everybody completed their task, and even if they had difficulty, see, this is the thing here that we got to understand. It is the responsibility of a leader to grow the people that they are over. If you don't have capacity in your business community, call an emergency meeting. How do we build the capacity to do the work that I want them to be able to do? Don't say I can't find them. Say we gotta create them. Chattanooga, then I'm going to see everybody rise. We will all rise together. But if you say that you're going to try to keep a certain segment of your business community and your population down, you got to stay down with them. You got to stay in the ditch. You can't hold a man in the ditch unless you're in there with him. And our leaders got to learn that. Marcus, we are up against the end of our program today. It's been a great show, a conversation that I know is difficult to have, but it needs to be had.
Absolutely. Again, like I said, I'm gonna put the fault on the heat of me bringing these heated discussions the last 2 weeks. Hopefully next week I don't have a heated discussion, but You know, things that's got to be addressed, and we got facts on those issues. We're going to keep bringing them. And, you know, those two that we brought today, I felt the need for the community to really know what is going on. And I think both issues deals with public and private sectors, you know, to show you all that not only are African Americans are being mistreated on the business side here in the city, county, and the state, but we got small rural towns that's being mistreated as well, because those the same type decisions that are being made on the business side, they do the same thing on the political side. And I was blessed to learn that, being on both sides. And I just do believe that in order for us to really transform things or move the needle, we got to get some people on the other side that that's really business minded.
Marcus, the engineer, has put up the Mississippi Black Chamber of Commerce website. And Marcus, we are welcoming the Chamber of Commerce to come in. Maybe you and I won't have to scream and holler. Maybe we got an organization that will stand up and communicate and advocate on the total business community here in Jackson, Mississippi. So we look forward to the Mississippi Black Chamber of Commerce getting going here again. And we want you to join, and we want you to support, and we want you to let's come to these meetings, let's have these discussions. And then when we come time to get back on the platform, we'll be bringing the words of the Mississippi Black Chamber of Commerce. I look forward to that day, Marcus.
Absolutely. That's about all, you all.
That's it. Y'all stay safe and good night.
Have a good evening.